Now that exotic class items are more readily available to people, whether it's through Xur, the Pale Heart, Dual Destiny, or just events in the game like Festival of the Lost, I think it's a good time to talk about roles that you should consider keeping even if you haven't gotten the #1 undisputed God role. Before I get into roles for each class, this is a friendly reminder that you do have attunement in the game now. By going to Ghost in the Pale Heart, you can actually pick one of the perks in one of the columns that you'd like to get, and you have a better chance of getting that role for your class setup, so that's also a W compared to when Final Shape launched. With that said, let's get into the roles. We'll do Warlock first, and I think the #1 undisputed role for Warlocks currently is still going to be Spirit of Apotheosis plus Spirit of Star Eaters. This can be used on multiple damage classes on Prismatic, such as Nova Bomb, or even Needle Storm if you want to go full strand. Now going down from that, you can just keep any Star Eater skill role that you have if you haven't gotten the perfect version of that role. Aside from that, there are a couple of other roles that I would recommend keeping if you happen to get them along the way. Also, in the interest of keeping this a very short video and getting straight to the point, I won't be able to show gameplay of every single role that I talk about, otherwise we'd be here for an hour, so I'll try to just put the combinations of the perks on the top of the screen as I'm talking for the gameplay. The next set I want to talk about is Syntheseps roles for Warlocks. So, there's 3 I've narrowed down. I think all 3 are viable and good in their own right, and especially if you can't get the perfect one that you're looking for, the other 2 options could be just a backup for you. Most people are going to want Syntheseps plus Inmost Light. It's a pretty common perk combination, even on the other classes, specifically on Titan. Then the backups to this would be Synthos plus Osiomancy, just for grenade regen rate. And then the other one that I still personally like, even though Inmost Light's probably more consistent, is Syntheseps plus Necrotic Grips. If you happen to be doing content where you will kill most of the enemies, but not all of them when utilizing something like Lightning Surge, then Necrotic Grips will also take them down and probably finish the job there. And I really like this when I'm doing content like, I don't know, Master of Lost Sectors, maybe I go into Onslaught to farm some weapons. It's just fun to use there. And given that we have so many mods that give ability regen as well, Inmost Light isn't really mandatory per se, and you can definitely fill it out with Necrotics plus Synthos instead. The last combo I want to talk about for Warlock is going to be Spirit of Osiomancy plus Spirit of Starfire. Right now, it's not anything insane, it's not meta-defining or anything like that, but given that Bungie tries to update the sandbox quite frequently now, especially from episode to episode, I feel like eventually this combination probably will shine somewhere in the game on some sort of boss. So if you happen to get this while you're farming for a different role, I'd throw it in the vault and keep it for the time being. Moving on to Titan, let's just get it over with. I think everyone and their mother is going to say the unanimous choice for #1 is, of course, Inmost Light plus Syntheseps. It is dominating the game even to this moment, and for all we know, probably will not be getting nerfed anytime soon. So that's the #1 choice to farm for sure. But outside of that, Spirit of Severance plus Syntheseps is also a fun role to have, especially if you've never gotten the Inmost and Syntho God role. Outside of that, it's probably better for you to just use straight up regular Synthos if you happen to be going for, you know, the punch-related builds or the consecration-related builds. So we're moving on from Synthos from here. Another great combination to look out for is Inmost Light plus Armentarium. It's pretty straightforward. You use your abilities and cycle through them, and then also Armentarium gives you an additional grenade charge to play around with. As for a DPS option, I think it's a unanimous choice for Titans. It's going to be Eternal Warrior plus Star Eater Scales. So specifically for this combo, you can utilize something like Thunder Crash and then have Bittersweet as your heavy weapon. That way you will go in for a good chunk of damage on T-Crash, and after that's done, you will have 30 seconds to deal X4 Surge damage with your Bittersweet thanks to Eternal Warrior. You can also switch this up to Void and then run Twilight Arsenal and then a Void Heavy to have the same effect. And then the last role I want to talk about for Titans is going to be Spirit of Severance plus Spirit of Contact. Now obviously, it's not going to beat the Syntho roles in a fair fight, if you will, but I will say this build is also pretty fun to use in most content. I wouldn't bring in, like, say, GMs or a contest mode for raids and dungeons, but it's a nice backup to have if you don't have a reliable Syntho role. Moving on to Hunter, there's several silly things to play around with on this class, actually. The #1, I think, is still going to be Spirit of Caliban plus Liars, because it's just a silly combination where you build up X3 combination blow, and you basically nuke everything in your sight with just one punch. And then if something happens to survive around that one punch, then the Caliban proc will certainly kill it with the ignition. There's also the alternate version to this, which is going to be Spirit of Caliban plus Syntheseps rather than Liar's Handshake, and then you would opt to swap to a melee-based build, but from a range. So for example, you would use Threaded Spike instead. You throw the spike, it kills the red bar enemy, then it would cause the ignition through that, and then kill the rest of the enemies around that one that you just initially killed, and also your melee comes back to you, you catch it, you get a bunch of energy back, and you rinse repeat. Other notable roles include something like Foe Tracer plus Star Eaters. Now, this isn't going to beat out a Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun build on Prismatic, but Bungie may tone it down, you know, at some point down the line, next episode, what have you, and something else could be introduced where it's worthwhile to run Foe Tracer and Star Eaters to build something up. So if you happen to get this dropped in the meantime of farming your perfect role, I would keep it and put it in the vault at the very least. Going back to Liars for a second, I do want to mention an alternate role. If you happen to not get a Liars Caliban role, you can go with Liars plus Assassin's Cal instead, and that way, if you happen to not use Stas Executioner as one of your aspects, you can utilize this to just go invisible every time that you do get a punch kill with your combo blow, and that becomes really helpful when you're doing content like GMs, where things can potentially one or two shot you instantly if you're not careful. Moving along, Galanor plus Star Eaters is also a combination you might want to keep for down the road. It's never a bad idea to keep an exotic class item perk that gives you half your super back, and then another one that pumps your super damage. It all, of course, depends on how the sandbox gets shaken up here and there. And the last combination I want to mention is going to be just a pure defensive setup for maximum DR. That's going to be Spirit of Renewal plus Spirit of Satrachny for just woven mail purposes, and then throwing down your Dust Field to have more damage resist in harder content. Anyway, that is my list, at least currently. Let me know if I happen to miss a good role that I should be mentioning, or what your favorite role is in terms of exotic class items for each character. If you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. If you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to comment, you can leave exotic as the comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.